Come closer to the fire, my friend. Don't worry about the rain outside. It's just the world's way of washing away the dust of the day. You look like someone who has been carrying a heavy load, and I don't mean a pack on your back. I mean that quiet, constant noise in your mind, the one that never lets you truly rest. People today talk about peace as if it's a luxury you have to buy. But in my day, back in 1850, peace was as natural as the air we breathed. It wasn't something we looked for, it was simply there. I remember the mornings best. There were no jarring alarms to startle us awake. The sun was our clock. When the first sliver of light touched the cedar beams of this cabin, we woke up with a purpose. There was a rhythm to it. The first sound wasn't a notification or a headline. It was the soft shuffle of boots on the wooden floor and the strike of a match. Every morning, the very first task was to wake the fire. You see, when you have to physically build the warmth that keeps your family safe, you appreciate it differently. There was a sacredness in those early hours. I'd stand on the porch, watching the mist rise from the valley, feeling the chill on my skin and the heat of a tin cup in my hands. We didn't rush into the day, we stepped into it. We didn't have to check what the world was doing because our world was right there in the smell of the damp earth and the crackle of the wood. We knew that the day would be long and the work would be hard, but there was a profound contentment in knowing exactly where you belonged. You weren't a number in a system. You were a man in his home, a part of the land itself. You might think our lives were nothing but struggle, but you'd be surprised at the joy we found in the toil. In your century, you've made everything instant. You press a button for heat, a button for food, a button for entertainment. But in removing the effort, you've also removed the satisfaction. When I spent a whole afternoon splitting logs for the winter, every swing of the axe was a prayer of gratitude. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, my muscles would ache, but my spirit was light. I knew that my family would be warm because of the work of my hands. That's a feeling you can't buy. And then there was the table. Oh, the stories that table could tell. When we sat down for supper, the world stopped at our doorstep. There were no distractions, no glowing screens to pull our eyes away from the faces of our loved ones. We saw the candlelight dancing in the eyes of our children. We spoke about the small victories, the calf that was born that morning, the way the corn was beginning to tassel, the letter we hoped to receive from kin back east. We actually listened to one another. We didn't just wait for our turn to speak. We absorbed the silence between the words. The steam from the stew and the rough texture of the wooden spoons were all we needed to feel rich. We understood that wealth wasn't measured by what you had in the bank, but by who you had at your table. In the 1850s, we didn't have much in the way of gold, but we were the richest people on earth because we had enough. That word enough is something I think your world has forgotten the meaning of. Let's talk about the silence. I know it scares people today. You fill every empty second with noise because you're afraid of what you might hear if it goes quiet. But to us, silence was a sanctuary. It was the good silence. It allowed us to hear the voice of the wind through the pines and the heartbeat of the seasons. We lived with nature's clock, not a machine's. When the autumn leaves turned to gold and fire, we knew it was time to gather. When the winter snow turned the world into a cathedral of white, we knew it was time to rest. We didn't fight the cold, we honored it. We spent those long winter nights right here, where I'm sitting now. I'd carve wood, my wife would knit, and the only sound would be the soft hiss of the sap in the logs. In that quiet, you learn things about yourself. You learn that most of the things you worry about don't really matter. You learn that your soul needs stillness to heal, just like a field needs a season of rest to be fertile again. You treat yourselves like machines that must run 24 hours a day, but even the strongest steel eventually snaps if it never cools down. We found our wellness in the absence of the extra. We didn't need complicated philosophies or expensive retreats. We just needed to sit by the hearth and let the firelight wash away the dust of our thoughts. We understood that the world is big and we are small, and there is a great peace in accepting that. I look at the world you live in now, and I see so many people who are surrounded by others but are desperately lonely. You have connections by the thousands, yet you don't have the warmth of a single hand. In my day, we were miles apart from our neighbors, but we were never alone. If a man's barn burned down, 20 men showed up at dawn with their hammers. We didn't do it for money, we did it because we were a community. We knew that we needed each other. We didn't have to hide behind masks or pretend to be someone else. We were who we were, weathered, honest, and anchored. There was a depth to our relationships that I don't see much of anymore. When we looked at someone, we really saw them. We saw their history, their struggles, and their strength. We found a deep medicine in the simple act of being together. Whether it was a barn dance under the harvest moon or a quiet wake for a lost friend, we shared the weight of life. You try to carry everything on your own shoulders today, but no one was ever meant to do that. The peace of the old days wasn't just about the absence of noise, it was about the presence of people who truly knew you. We found wellness in the circle of the hearth, where every story was a thread that tied us closer to one another. The fire is burning low now, but the warmth hasn't left the room. That's the secret, you see. Even when the world gets cold and the lights go out, the warmth of a peaceful heart stays with you. I know you have to go back. I know you can't stay in 1850 forever. But you don't have to leave the peace behind. You can choose to wake up 10 minutes earlier and just breathe the morning air. You can choose to sit at your table and look at the faces of your family without a screen in between you. You can choose to find your own good silence. Don't let the noise of your century rob you of your soul. You are more than a producer or a consumer. You are a human being, meant to feel the warmth of the sun and the rhythm of the rain. As you leave this cabin, take a bit of this firelight with you. Remember that life isn't a race to the finish. It's a slow walk through the valley. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to your spirit. And most of all, remember that the peace of the old days is always waiting for you, right here, whenever you need to remember who you truly are. Go now, my friend. The rain has softened, and the stars are beginning to peek through. Go in peace, and come back whenever the world gets too loud. I'll be here, right by the fire.